Morning, boss.
Hello.
We all good?
Today I shall be taking the role of Delta.
Yeah. How's it going, Delta?
Alright, yeah.
What are you up to?
Messing in the garage with a bike.
Yeah, standard stuff then.
Yeah.
Shall we crack on then?
Let's look at what we've got.
Yeah, okay. What are we doing today though? We are bleeding the caliper on the GN?
GS!
All these numbers and letters. What is it?
GS!
No, it's a CG.
CG!
Honda.
FN!
CG.
BY!
125.
Take it easy.
Here we are, yeah. It is a Honda CG125 and we are bleeding the caliper. There is no brake fluid in there at all. The reservoir is empty. I don't know if you remember, but we took the caliper apart and changed the seals, put it all back together. So yeah, we need some fluid in there. That's what we're doing today. Tools, relatively few, but we will be using this little jobby, which if you don't have one of these, this is like a vacuum pump, and it comes in handy for many vehicle related tasks. So I will be using this. If you don't have one, perhaps this is not the video for you, but I will recommend that you go and buy one of these because they are excellent for many things. Other than that, we have an 8mm spanner, we have a screwdriver, we have a dirty old rag, and I have a willing assistant.
Mostly willing!
Or at least an assistant. So let's get on with this. Additionally, you will need some brake fluid, of course. You just mash it in like that. .4 brake fluid, fairly standard. This is what we're using.
Depending on the year that you're watching this, obviously they may have moved it up to .5, 6, 7, you know, because we're going to be having these videos way in the future.
Yeah. Cool, so whatever dot you're up to, this one is .4. Check your handbook if you think you might need .78 or whatever on your hovercraft. And yeah, we'll just use .4. First job then is to remove the cap from the reservoir thing here, the master cylinder.
Thanks for the new screws, John.
Yeah, look, shiny new screws arrived. Thank you, Wiimoto. If you remember, the other ones were properly gnarly and took a fair bit of effort to get those out. But yeah, we've got new ones now. So let's not lose those because I've only got 2. Let's find somewhere safe to put those. Next step then is to remove the cap. Because hey, you can't fill it with it cap on. So there's the black cap, there's this kind of clear plasticky cap, and there's a rubbery cap, and then down in there, that's where the brake fluid lives. I will say at this point, because I know somebody will comment, brake fluid is very bad for you and your skin, and it is horrible. So don't eat it, drink it, stick it in your eyeballs, don't get it on your skin. Wear some gloves, wear a welding mask, wear a full biohazard suit.
1950s diving suit with a bell thing on it.
Yeah, at least. But in all seriousness, it is horrible stuff and you don't want it anywhere near you really, so wear some protective gear. Next up then is the vacuum pump. What I've done is I've got the vacuum pump. It comes with various lengths of this piping, so there's a short length there, obviously the reservoir that sucks the fluid into there. There's another short length there, and then they give you these caps here which are supposed to fit on the bleed nipples. I've never found that they seal very well, so what I've got here instead is like a double barbed piece going through to some just vacuum hose. It's got a fairly small diameter, but it does form a good seal on the bleed nipple, which allows you to suck the fluid through without sucking a bunch of air through at the same time. Right. I've got my 8mm spanner, which is going to go on the bleed nipple just here. I've got my bit of vacuum hose attached to all this business, and all I'm doing is just pushing it over the bleed nipple there, making sure that it's over as well as it can be. So the process here will be, I'm going to build up a head of vacuum here by doing this. Kieran's going to put some fluid in the reservoir at the top. And then I'm going to release the bleed nipple thusly, just a little bit, like maybe a quarter of a turn. And what should happen is the fluid should start coming through the pipes and start collecting in this reservoir. Obviously there's a fair amount of air in this system, so it might take a while before it starts to come through. But the idea is that you suck the fluid through, and keep an eye out for any air coming through with it. And in an ideal world, what you would see is the clean fluid coming through.
A steady flow.
Yeah, with no air bubbles in it. Sometimes you do get air bubbles coming from around the bleed nipple, and it can't be helped. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, the amount of fluid in the reservoir at the top there will go down as it's sucked through. So Kieran's job is to keep the reservoir topped up as we're doing this. Okay, dokie. So we're up top now, as you can see. Kieran's got the brake fluid here. He's got his little gloves on. Wonderfully modelled there. Could be a hand model.
If
We've got the
granny hands.
Yeah, we've got the rag handy for any spillages. Obviously the plastics in the tank are all off this, but it's not the kind of thing that you want to get on paintwork particularly, because it will strip your paint, and basically just try and keep it where it should be and nowhere else. So we're going to put some in there. We'll get that up to sort of the top there, and then what I will now do is do the vacuum bit at the bottom.
Get to pumping.
Righto then, I've got my Swedish penis pump. I am building up some vacuum by pumping said penis pump. And when I've got some vacuum, I'm going to release this bleed nipple slightly. And Kieran, is the level going down at all?
Yep, I'm having to dribble a little extra.
So I guess it's going somewhere, I guess it's coming down. Kieran's adding more fluid in at the top level. And I don't know if you can see that, but it is starting to come through that pipe there. There's quite a lot of bubbles at this stage, which is to be expected. So we'll keep going. I am pumping all the while here just to keep the vacuum levels up. We've got fluid collected in the bottom of there, so it's definitely coming through. Okay, I've closed off this bleed nipple now, so that is air and liquid tight. And again, I don't know if you can see that, but there are still some bubbles coming through this bit of pipe here, and that is because air is being sucked in here at this joint, or possibly this joint here, but either way it is being sucked in at the joint. It's not coming from the caliper. So I think there's every possibility that we've now got a caliper full of brake fluid. So what we'll do is we'll definitely make sure that's closed off. We'll remove all of this gubbins, and we're just going to test the brake. So we've closed off the bleed nipple there and removed all the vacuum pipe and the little vacuum pump. So that's now all sealed up. We've come back up top. You can see the reservoir is full. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to pump the brake a little while. The first few pumps at least, there'll probably not be much resistance because the piston is all the way into the caliper, so it's got to push that piston back out to the point where the pads are contacting the disc. So for a while at least, until that happens, there won't be much resistance.
Now I'm starting to feel it.
Starting to feel
It's getting hard,
the
John.
resistance. It's getting what?
It's getting hard.
It's getting hard.
Yeah. It's all that pumping you've done.
How's that feel?
It's firm but fair. You can see the level has dropped somewhat, which is, as you've said, there's that piston getting pushed out and it's taken the place. So we'll add a little bit more in there, I think.
How's it feeling in terms of, you know, is you think it's where it should be, or?
Feels pretty good.
So you
But
feel like,
having never ridden this particular bike, but certainly the brake does feel pretty firm there.
all right. Well, what we'll do then, we'll top it up to the max level. We'll put the reservoir cap back on, and then we'll show you a little trick. Okay, then as you can see, we've got the bike off the stand. We're just doing a little bit of a roll it forward and slam the anchors on test, just to see how that works. How's it feeling?
Pretty solid.
I felt that the lever,
Responsive.
yeah, the lever feels good, and it is stopping the bike fairly nicely. So I'm fairly confident that that is done, but I did promise you a little tip. So what I'm going to show you is, well, said tip basically. I don't have a side stand on this. It didn't come with a side stand. I am yet to fit one, but it should come with a side stand from the factory. So what you need to do is pretend that I've got a side stand. We're going to put it on the side stand, and then you can see the lever here and the bar. The trick is to, excuse the video there, hold the brake on and turn the bars all the way this way. And then using anything you like, it can be a tie wrap, zip tie, piece of string, anything you like, you need to hold that brake lever on. And you would leave that overnight. So what's going to happen there is, as you can see at this point, the master cylinder is the highest point in that system. So by holding that brake on and having the master cylinder as the highest point in the system, the theory goes that any air that's left in the system will make its way up the pipes and pop out at the master cylinder and be replaced by the fluid that is in there. So if you've got any persistent air in your system and you want to get rid of that, yeah, that's the tip. Clamp the brake on, put it on its side stand, leave it overnight. Well, bish bash bosh, that's that job done. We're going to put this back in the back of the garage now, because what we're doing is, well, let's have a think. So the front end's all done, the caliper's been rebuilt, we've got brake fluid in, the forks have got fresh fluid in, and all that's good. Put all the front end back together. I'm going to replace this tyre and probably the back one as well, but that will come later. Obviously need to put the mud guard back on, but for all intents and purposes, the front of this bike is now complete. The engine we're happy with, minus an oil change which will come just before we start using it. So we are moving on to the rear of the bike. The chain and sprockets do look a little bit, or rather a lot, worn and dirty and horrible.
Funky.
So the next step will be removing the rear wheel, having a look at the wheel bearings, taking the sprocket and chain off, possibly taking the swing arm out, but that will all come later. So for now, that is a job jobbed.
Woo!
Ta-da!